Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alina, I'm a self-published author, and if you're new here, I typically post videos about being an author and writing and publishing and marketing and everything that being an author entails, basically. In terms of what I write a lot of stuff. I can't decide on one genre, so basically I mainly write contemporary romance, mysteries, and sci-fi and fantasy. So almost all genres. For those of you who already know me, hi again, thanks for being here. This is not my typical video, but I felt it was a video I needed to make. If it wasn't clear from the title, this is a response to Jenna Moreci's video on writing to market and rapid release. Before we get into the video, there are a few things I'd like to say first. Let me just put down my tablet. So, first of all, this is not me bashing Jenna or her video or trying to start drama. I'm actually subscribed to Jenna. I've been subscribed for a very long time, and by that I mean years. I subscribed to her well before I returned to YouTube to post content, and I've always enjoyed her videos. I think I've watched about 80% of what she's posted to date, so pretty dedicated watcher of her channel. I do admire Jenna's business savviness, if you want, because she did succeed in building a really great YouTube platform, and then she monetized that platform through a lot of ways, and one of the ways she uses it to monetize it is publishing books. That said, I don't believe she makes a full-time living from books, and I think that plays a role when we talk about making it as an author. I think it's a thing you should keep in mind if you're a fan of hers and want to reproduce her method. There's nothing wrong with her method, but please be aware that she makes money through her channel, through advertising, through sponsored content and partnership opportunities that she decides work for her channel, and she's been pretty good at picking those. And she has courses that she sells, and she has books as well, which have been doing really well since she published them, but it's 2 books, and based on her Amazon stats, and I'm pretty sure she's Kindle exclusive for the 8 books, based on her stats, she makes a nice income from books, but not enough to live off. That's just my opinion. I don't know her numbers. That's my guess, my educated guess. I don't really do response videos. I do tackle difficult topics, and I try to be as drama-free as I can. So if it's a topic I think we should discuss, I try to discuss it in a productive way. But I've seen so much stuff said and posted about right to market and rapid release, and it's such a incendiary topic, if you want, but also an important one to have a conversation about, that I felt I needed to make this response. And here's why. I think Jenna did a fairly good job at trying to be impartial. She's not impartial. She has a bit of a bias, and that's evident in her content. But what upset me the most, well, not upset me, what made me feel the need to make this video is that it doesn't seem she fully understands what right to market is, how rapid release works, and why people do it. And that's an important part of it, because if you don't know the backbones, how can you have an informed opinion about it? It's like, let's take an art example, trying to stylize a hand. Have a stylized drawing of a hand. To do that, you have to know the realistic take on it. You have to know how the anatomy works, why certain things are a certain way, and how the hand moves. And it feels a bit like trying to stylize a hand without knowing what you're stylizing. That's the feeling I got from her video. She did try a lot harder than many other people who bash rapid release and writing to market. And I think she kept an open mind for the most part, but I think she has some preconceptions, and there are some things she doesn't know, and maybe she didn't talk to the right people, I don't know. But I felt that she has this huge platform, and there are a lot of aspiring authors or aspiring writers, however you want to call them, who watch her, and maybe they need to fact check all that information she put in her video. So, about the video, I watched it once and I needed to get my thoughts in order, so I went through the video again and took notes, and I have about 2,000 words of notes, which I could have written on one of my works in progress, but hey. I think it's important to have this conversation, and I think it's important to share my take on it. Again, this is in no way trying to bash Jenna or hating on her. It's just an alternative point of view, which I think it's based on more hands-on experience, not necessarily with writing to market, but with rapid release. And I think it's based on a deeper understanding of it, because I've been looking at this for a long time and I've been following people who do it successfully. So I'll just try to address each topic that caught my attention while I was watching her video. Because of this style, and because I chose not to add parts of her video, because I don't want to trigger any algorithms. I don't think Jenna would go out of her way to claim this video to copyright strike me or anything, but there are YouTube algorithms and bots, and based on how they took down a cat video I posted, basically, for unknown reason, I'm just not willing to risk it. So that's why it's not that I'm afraid Jenna would do something to me. I don't think she would. Like, I really don't think I would even get on her radar with this video. But this video is not for her. This is for aspiring writers who might want a more in-depth conversation on right to market and rapid release. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what right to market is, it's pretty much trying to find a niche within the publishing market that would yield a lot of sales. That's basically it. It's being very good at guessing what will sell well, what trends are going to stick, and which trends are going to just disappear in a second. And rapid release means that, releasing books rapidly. But there's a reason why that happens, and there's a logic to it. It pretty much has to do with Amazon algorithms. So the cutoff for a rapid release would be 90 days, so 3 months. Because after those first 90 days from your book being published, Amazon won't push it as much. So if within those 90 days you release a second book, the Amazon algorithms will keep pushing your name and your book. Not the first one, but the second one. If the second one happens to be a second in a series, then you'll get backlist orders on the first book. Basically, that's why it happened. So the cutoff will be 3 months. So if you publish less than 4 books a year, you're not rapid releasing. This can go anywhere from releasing books every day or dumping 8 books at once to the full 3 months. I think the most common choice is to release a book every month. Okay? Moving on. The first thing I noticed was that Jenna said she did a lot of research and interviewed people who do release rapidly and right to market. I'm not sure what that research is or who these people are, but it's not what I've been hearing about rapid release. So for anyone getting into this, I strongly recommend searching Chris Fox on YouTube. He's a right to market author. He's the guy who wrote the book Right to Market, and he's really open about every number. You will see how much money he makes, what he spends his money on to promote the books, and you'll get like a really close-up inside look at his method. I also recommend buying Right to Market, the book. Even if you don't intend to write to market, it will still help you. Again, if you want more information on that and you want a group of people who are business-oriented and of which part will go for this route, I suggest a 20 books to 50K group on Facebook. It's pretty much about business and marketing strategies and publishing strategies. It won't be a craft advice group. But if you want to see more about the business of it, whether you want to rapid release or not, whether you want to write to market or not, I wholeheartedly recommend this group. I will leave a link to it in the description. but you know, give it a try. There are a lot of very smart and successful people there, and the numbers you'll see from them will really inspire you. So give it a try. She also mentioned that she's open-minded and she's not biased and she's trying to be impartial, which she did try. To her credit, she did try her best to keep an open mind, but from the way she phrased certain things and the way she chose the pros and cons and some of the contradictions happening within the video, I think she's a bit against the whole right to market culture and releasing rapidly, and I think that's because she doesn't have all the information on it. She also mentioned the need for a saturated, or she sometimes called it oversaturated market for this type of strategy, which is incorrect. You need a popular genre. That's right. She's right about paranormal romance being a good choice for it. She also mentions erotica. What she doesn't mention is the genre that has most of the rapid release things happening, which is romance. All types of romance. Contemporary romance does as well or maybe better than paranormal romance, at least from what I've seen. You do need a very popular genre. But what you're targeting is not a saturated niche, it's a hungry niche. Because if it's oversaturated, you won't get that many sales. So clearly, she kind of didn't understand the strategy of picking a niche within which to write to market and to release rapidly. Again, this is covered in Chris Fox's Right to Market. You even have exercises on how to find your own niche. And by the way, this is not just trend chasing, it's trying to align things that sell with things you like to write. Because if you don't love a certain trope or a certain subgenre and you try it, readers will know. And I think this is something that you should keep in mind right from the start. Readers are a lot more knowledgeable about what they like and what a good book is than you think they are. Always. The second point she makes over and over again throughout the video is the use of cliches in books. It's not cliches. It's knowing what tropes are popular, and there's no genre without tropes. That's just not going to happen. There are tropes, but there are also genre expectations. And they're different from genre to genre, and when you're trying to write to market, you should be aware of those and choose what to keep, because there are certain rules you should never break, like not having a happily ever after or a happy for now ending in a romance novel. That's a no-no, because it's no longer a romance. If you want to write tragedy, then just write tragedy, but don't brand it as a romance, because people will have a problem with it. So you have to know the genre well, so that you know when you can subvert expectations or push the boundaries or even break some rules. But that doesn't mean you don't have to stick by the things that define the genre. Also, if your book is a cliche from start to finish, people won't read the next book. There's a reason why people have authors they no longer buy from, because they were disappointed in a book or maybe two or maybe three, and then they're like, I'm not going to spend my money on this author, even if they're a Kindle Unlimited author and technically I'm just paying a subscription. It's just not worth my time. So that will happen. Knowing your genre and writing to its expectations and writing in a way that attracts readers of that genre doesn't mean your book is an entire cliche. And while we're on the topic of that, if you think anything is new in this world of writing, that it's not been done before, you're deluded. We have thousands of years of literature history. Everything's been done before. You just have to come with your new take on it, and your new style and your new voice, which takes it from a cliche to something original and people enjoy. Speaking of tropes, there are some very, very popular tropes. The love triangle is one of them, which I personally hate. A lot of people hate it, so why have it there? But there are things like brother's best friend, or friends to lovers, or enemy to lovers, which people love. Or my personal favorite, redemption arcs. I love redeeming characters, and I may or may not have done it, and I may or may not plan to do it again in the future. I love that kind of story. I love second chances for people who really screwed up, because I hope we all get it at some point if we really screw up. I made a note here about why algorithms are so important. You have to understand that people don't choose to publish books on a certain schedule just because that sells. No, they have a deeper reason behind it. It's the algorithm thing that I've talked about, which is mainly driven by Amazon, and that's why a lot of authors who do rapid release are Amazon exclusive. First of all, if you didn't know this, Amazon will always push Kindle Unlimited books more than white books. White books are the books that you publish in several places that they're not Amazon exclusive. They will always push that book that's in Kindle Unlimited over the book that's wide. You will always have to sell a lot more books to get the same rank as a Kindle Unlimited book, because besides sales, they also have downloads in Kindle Unlimited, which count towards the Amazon rank. So it's way more popular to have rapid release strategies for Kindle Unlimited books. That said, it works wide as well, because you still get the benefit of the Amazon algorithm, and even if you have lower sales by the number, like you have less books that get to readers than you would have in Kindle Unlimited, you make more money for every sale, because the amount you make on a full read of your Kindle Unlimited book will never be the same amount you make while selling a copy. It will be lower. So it can work, but technically the majority will still go for Kindle Unlimited books for their rapid release strategies. The other point is that you need to be a really fast writer. Not exactly true, because as Jenna mentioned, a lot of people write in advance and then they start publishing, and when they start publishing, they have a lot of books written or almost finished and in the process of editing. They're ready to go. I know people who hoard 4 to 6 books and then they start releasing, which it's fine. I did some rapid releasing the end of last year and this year. Technically I do a lot of rapid releasing because I release a lot of books. But the way I did it was that I was kind of off publishing and writing for a long time, publishing more, writing less, because I was writing at the time. But I had a really tough year with a lot of health issues, so I had books I'd written before that and during that and after that, and they just piled up because I didn't have enough energy to go through them and edit them and do covers and whatever. And once I got back to it, I had a lot of manuscripts that I just needed to edit and then send to my editor. So I piled up books too. Also, I know how fast I write, and I did fast release first, rapid release, sorry. I first did it with a Kindle Unlimited serial, gay contemporary romance, and they were all short novellas, like 20,000 words plus. And I released them in story arcs. So the first story arc had 4 books. That's my dog. The second story arc had 3 books, and I released them every couple of weeks. And now I will start releasing the third and final arc of the series at the end of September. It will have 3 books. I'm already writing book 2. Book 1 is finished, I just need to edit it. I will finish them and have a month to edit them myself and then send them to my editor, and then I start releasing. So that's how I do it. Technically, I'm also rapid releasing my mysteries because I release a book every 3 months in each series. But for example, I'm starting a cozy series now. I have 2 books already written and I haven't even started publishing. And the next book I need to write will be released in December. So, and that's something I'll be writing next month. Next month or October at the latest. So there are strategies to make this work. Plus, if you write like a couple pages a day, you'll get a full book in a few months. If you think 40K, which is what the Nebula Awards define as a novel. If it's a novella, you'll get it done faster. You don't actually need to write fast, you just need to write consistently and have the time to put into it. Because if you write for 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 hours a day, of course you'll produce a lot more than people who write a couple of hours a day on the weekend. Nothing wrong with that. Some people just want writing to stay their hobby and their passion. Other people want to make it a business. And when it's a business, you work on it every single day. And depending on your strategy, you invest that time more in promoting and building the marketing or in writing. Because a lot of people believe that the best marketing tool you have to promote the book you just published, it's the next book. Jenna also mentioned that novels and books in general within this are typically on the shorter side, so novellas, novelettes, and so on. Novellas do work, but people prefer full novels, so 40K or more. But it's generally 50, 60, 70, and the reason why that is, it's because you get more money per book for the Kindle Unlimited downloads, because there are more pages to read. So I'd say that the 40K average is the norm, and I've seen a lot of rapid release authors who write 70 to 90K books, and they're not necessarily fast writers. They write like 1,000, 1,500 words per hour. They just work a lot of hours. So that's how it's happening. And remember, most of these books are Kindle Unlimited books, so page reads and number of pages will always count, so they don't always go for shorter books. Jenna also mentioned that the difference between normal writing and write-to-market style of writing would be that one group decides to write what they want to read and the other group decides to write what is trendy. I think that's wrong, because it's mostly a difference between thinking of readers when you write and thinking of yourself when you write. Most people who are against writing to market say they want to write what they want to write. When you say, I want to write a book I'd like to read, you already think of yourself as part of a group of readers that prefers a certain thing, or would like a certain thing that's not there in the market, a need you want to fulfill. So if you think of it like that, the write-to-market strategy is suddenly not that foreign. And I would like to say that writing to market, if you choose to go that way or use principles of it, it implies you know your readers and your genre very well. You're aware of their expectations and what will make them tick and buy. It doesn't mean you're just writing stuff for people who will read anything. It's not like that in most cases. I would also like to talk about this conception that on average a novel takes a year or more to produce and publish. I'll go to the extreme. I'll take a really slow writer that can only write 100 words per hour. And let's say that writer writes 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's 3,000 words per week and 12,000 words per month. To write a novel that's 70K plus, it will take them 6 months. They'll still have 6 months for revisions and edits and getting it ready for publishing. They can start working on the cover earlier than the moment where they finish the book, if they know their genre. And they can already start working on their marketing strategy and start implementing it, because that's what teasers are for, right? You have to be really slow as a full-time writer to only write and publish a book per year. But in the second half of the year, where you're going through edits, there's a lot of waiting time. In that waiting time, while you're waiting for your editor to go through your book and send it back, you can start writing a different one. And if you've been doing this for a long time, you're a few books ahead. I don't think writing a book and publishing it, if you don't do anything else, will ever take a year. I think we think of that number because there are a lot of other things that go on at once. So if you're a full-time writer and you dedicate enough time to it, it might seem like you're doing it very fast, but the amount of hours you put into it, they might not be vastly different from the number of hours someone else puts into it. I would also like to point out that the more you write, the more your word count increases. you'll do better. You'll get better at plotting and planning and typing faster. It's a skill you develop and improve over time. So I don't exactly understand what creates this average and whether it accounts for whether people are full-time authors or not. And I know George R.R. Martin kind of messes up this average, but Ray Bradbury did exist, and he typically pulled out a short story in a day or two. So he was a really fast writer. So I recommend Zen in the Art of Writing, which is our workshop book for the month on Tamara's channel, and that video goes up this Saturday. Well, it's a live stream, not a video, Jesus. There's also the discussion of writing to market being a self-publishing thing, more so because of the rapid release, but the reason why traditional publishers have a lot of time between releases of the same author's books, it's because they do a different type of rapid release. They can release 3 or 5 or 10 urban fantasy books in the same month from different authors. So it's kind of the same thing, and it's more interchangeable than Jenna thinks it is for self-published rapid releasers, because people want the books in that genre and that publisher is going to give them to them. It just won't be from the same author because it takes a lot of time to manage all those people and edit and promote and market for all of them. She also said that most people who write to market would switch to self-publishing because it's harder to chase trends in traditional publishing. It is and it isn't. You just have to be really good at figuring out what will be really popular in a year or two, preferably 2. And I think Alexa Dunn spoke about this a lot more, and for everything traditional publishing, I recommend you go check her out. But it can be done, and if you would like to write to market as a slow writer and you have a publisher that might be best, because you don't have to capitalize on trends now, you can capitalize on trends that are kind of about to emerge because they tend to stick around for a year or two. The reason why traditionally published authors move to self-publishing is because they only have themselves to manage, so they can put out books faster, regardless of how long it takes them to write them, because with a publisher, they're constrained by their schedule and they need to be included with a lot of other authors. And if they're savvy enough after a long time in traditional publishing, they can do a great job self-publishing and they can make more money. The next point I would like to address is pricing. She says that most of the rapid release books are free or up to $2.99, which is and isn't true. There are books that are within that price range. It's typically priced at $2.99 if it's a novella, and people do go for free or 99-cent books, but usually it's the first in the series so that it can lead readers into the series. But because of how Amazon works and because of how savvy people are, if it's a novel, you will rarely find it at less than $3.99. She also said that it's ideal if it's ebook only. Actually, no. Most advice I've seen from people who self-publish successfully and who do write to market and who do write and release rapidly is that you should invest into paperback and audiobook, because the more versions of your book you have on a product page, the more sales you have. It actually increases sales for your rapidly released ebook if you have a paperback for it and an audiobook. So that's not exactly true. This was the intro part of her video, and then she moved into pros and cons, and I will try to address all of these as best as I can. This is going to be a very long video. Why am I doing this to myself? Anyway, she mentions speed as a pro for writing to market and releasing rapidly. I don't understand why speed is a pro. It's a consequence. Writing to market and releasing rapidly, you don't do it because speed is a pro for it. Speed is a bit of a restraint and an impediment. You have to do everything really well. You have to have a really good system in place to maintain it. I would say the pro is the fact that Amazon promotes your books more because of how their algorithms work. So you get more sales. That's the pro, not the speed. Speed is a consequence. That's the result of Amazon algorithms working in a certain way. So the pro here would be like the sales and all the promo Amazon does for you for free because they push your books more, especially if they're in Kindle Unlimited. She also said that rapid release is anything from 2 to 20 books per year. 2 books per year is not rapid release. Like I said, it has to be at least 4 books a year. If you think of rapid release as the goal to get the most out of Amazon, you need to make that 90-day cutoff point. So you need a bit more books than 2, like double that. It's fine. Like I said earlier, the most common thing to do is have 1 book out per month. 1 title, I should say, because sometimes it's a novella, sometimes it's a novel, sometimes it's something in between, like a longer novella that verges on being a novel. Then we get into the part where I got pissed off because she said that one of the downsides is the quality of the books. She said that people who write and release rapidly don't want to do multiple rounds of edits and betas and so on. And I was like, what are you talking about? All the people I know have editing processes in place that usually mean at least an editor that does multiple rounds and then a proofreader. Some even have beta readers or critique partners. They just have a really good system in place because everything needs to be faster and you really have quite a lot of options. You either work with multiple editors so that you can handle your workflow, or you work with a really fast editor because, you know, editors like writers, they work faster or slower because some are full-time editors, some are not. Some have a higher volume of books, some take a limited number of books because they don't want to make it their main job. Also, you can have an editor on standby. It's an editor that you pay a monthly fee for, so in that fee, they edit a certain number of words for you. It's a great retainer to have, and people do use that, and they have editors who kind of edit as they go. They do a first pass while they're drafting, and then they do a second pass after everything is implemented. There are a lot of things that work, but I don't really know of people who do not edit at all, other than their own edits. That just doesn't work. Because, like I said, readers are a lot savvier than we give them credit for, and they will be loud about the edits. If they really like your story, they will forget about the edits and wait until you have enough money to do the edits. And I know of people who started without having a professional edit, made some money, and then edited the books. And the reader supported them because there was such a great story in their series. That happens. But the vast majority of people who self-publish will go through multiple rounds of edits. That's just how it is, because otherwise you don't have a quality product and people will stop buying you. And like I said, and she mentions it here, there's a lot of writing ahead of time that happens, true, plus there are box sets. Let's not forget box sets. Like when you have a longer series, people will typically release a 3 to 4 book box set in between multiple books, which is like a really great thing because first of all, you get more time from the Amazon algorithms. That book sells for an overall smaller price than buying the books individually, but it does generate a lot of money per sale. And when they get it in Kindle Unlimited, there's a lot more pages to be read. So they're always a good idea. Plus, if they write ahead of time, it means they have time for edits. So I think the poor quality issue is more of a misconception than an actual fact. There are poorly written books out there, and they can be from slow or fast writers. They can be from self or traditionally published authors. I've seen crap of all kinds. It's not a given that if you release rapidly, it's a crap book. Like I said, most people I know, they wouldn't even dream of not having their books edited. We should never forget that the moment you finish writing a book doesn't mean someone starts working on it as your editor or so on and so forth. You depend on other people. If you don't do stuff for yourself, like covers or formatting, you depend on people for those too. This will prolong the time it takes to release a book. If you have a really good system in place that works, like clockwork, then you don't have to worry about that. And it's a question of what you invest your time in. If you have a major YouTube channel that needs a lot of time for you to maintain and produce content for, and go through sponsorships and create courses, people who don't do that, they invest all that time into writing and marketing their books. So with the same limited amount of time, people make different choices. That's all. It's not better or lower quality based on that. By the way, Chris Fox has a YouTube channel. It has way less subscribers than Jenna Moreci. It's still like 30K, so 30,000 people. He doesn't promote it. He releases videos weekly, religiously. I don't think he promotes it anywhere. I haven't seen it. And I share a few groups with him. I've seen him around Facebook. He just releases the video, maybe shares it on social media, and that's it, because he has other things to do. That said, it still got to 30,000 subscribers organically, because it's good advice and it's in-depth advice. And again, like I said, if you want to see numbers of a person who makes a lot of money, go check him out. Also, I would like to say that beta readers are an optional step, not a must, especially when you write to market. Because when you write to market, it means that you know your genre and your readers really well. What beta readers do is that they give you feedback on your book, and you can gauge the reaction you'll get when you release it. It's like a test drive. But if you already know your market really well and your genre really well, and you have a good professional editor to work with, and this is not your first rodeo, you do not need beta readers. Maybe a sensitivity reader for certain topics, but it's an optional step. I'm sorry, it really is. The editor, that's not optional. Beta readers kind of are. With that said, her claim that people who write market skip like 75% of the editing and all the work that goes into publishing a book is false. If we say beta readers represent a quarter of that work, then yeah, they skip 25%, maybe. Not all, because some have beta readers, they just have really fast readers. And it's really easy when your audience is made of people who read a book a day, because this is the market for rapid release books. It's people who generally have subscriptions like Kindle Unlimited and read a book a day or more, or a few books a week. And the reason why they go for the subscription is that they can have a minimal investment way of vetting new authors, and they don't go bankrupt from all the books they buy. Can you imagine buying and reading like 60 books per month? How much that would set you back? People have budgets. It doesn't mean they're not good at giving feedback, or that they don't know what they want from a book. I also didn't particularly enjoy that everything that's written to market is considered to be a guilty pleasure for the readers. I feel like it's a bit condescending to them. If they like contemporary romance or a certain trope, it doesn't mean it's a guilty pleasure. It might be a very out there pleasure that they share with the world. She also mentioned that a downside of this whole strategy is the sustainability of it, and that sales will plummet when the trend is over, which is and isn't true. It depends on how long the trend and how popular the book gets in that time. Because you see, these people will release new series that chase new trends, and the readers who fall in love with that series will want more for them. So backlists, they actually work for people who write to market too, even after the trend has faded away, because most of these writers try to get super fans who would read anything they publish. So that's a bit of a misconception. And because we're talking about this, I've seen a lot of conversations going on about read-through, like how many readers who bought book 1 bought book 2, and I see people want at least 40-50% read-through, which is great, because they can pretty much estimate how much money they will make from one reader throughout the series. because of that read through, and it's fairly easy to monitor. You just look at your numbers. And just to brag a bit, let's take my most recent rapid release. It's a wide release. It's my only investigation series. Book 2 has been out for less than 10 days, and my read through is already between 50 and 60%. So 50 to 60% of the people who bought book 1 within the past 3 months have already purchased book 2. So that's a good read through. It doesn't mean they didn't like it or that it was bad. It means they liked it enough to keep on going with the series. That's basically one of the reasons why a lot of people say you shouldn't have a free first book, because that will completely ruin your stats, because the number of people who go from a free book to a paid second book is a lot lower. So if you charge at least 99 cents, you increase your chances to get more readers. By the way, I released the mysteries at $3.99 full price, no discount so far, and they did pretty well. And they were wide, they were not a Kindle Unlimited book. I do have the novella series, but I don't think that's the same thing, because it's a lower price, lower page count, so, but that still did good. It got profit. She also said that marketing is easier, but then she said that there's a lot of marketing as a con, so that's a contradiction. I don't think marketing is easier or harder. It's just different, because when you write to market, you already have an idea of how you'll market the book before you start. When you write first, you then try to figure out which genre this book fits into and how to market it. So it's just a difference of step order, but the amount of work is the same. But if you chase trends, there is an audience who is open to reading your book, and that might make things easier, but then you have to make sure you're on point with all the genre expectations, which means a lot of research going on in covers and tropes and everything. So I don't think it's that easy or harder. She also mentioned that the downside is the interchangeability, so people want to read something in their favorite genre, and it doesn't matter if it's your book or someone else's. That's true for any type of writer, or if you believe if you write a sci-fi romance once and never write it again, people will never write sci-fi romance because you no longer write that, you'd be wrong. There is interchangeability when people specifically read the genre. That doesn't mean they don't have favorites. So I suspect she might not be in as many readers group as I'm into, because I know a lot of really heavyweight readers, the people that read a lot of books. They have Kindle Unlimited subscriptions and they read every day, and it's tons and tons of books. And I've seen them. They do ask for recommendations in readers groups about a certain trope or a certain type of book, and they get recommendations. You can see who's doing well through that, because if an author is doing really great, a lot of people will recommend them. There's a quote here. She said, "Your author 24 on their favorite authors list. It ain't that deep." I would like to mention readers generally have lists of auto-buy authors. So that's an author that puts out a book and you immediately buy it. You don't even care what book it is, you just buy it. If you're 24 on that list, you're doing great. They're buying every book you're putting out. Also, if you want to think about what being in a top 30 is, just look at all the people who are trying to get in the top 100s on Amazon. And I can tell you, for really competitive niches, like let's say gay romance, if you're number 24, you're selling a lot of books, like a lot of books. You have to have a really, really low overall Amazon rank, like lower than 10,000 overall. I think it's lower than 5,000 overall, which, if you don't know, means a lot of daily sales to maintain that and be in that top. If you're number 1 on the gay romance category on Amazon, you're selling like hotcakes. You're selling a lot of books every day. So, I mean, if I have these 1,000 voracious readers that buy every book I put out on the 24th of every month, I'm happy, because I have 1,000 sales per month. So I think it just depends on how you look at the numbers. Besides, I don't think interchangeability is an issue that only affects this type of writing. It affects every author. Unless you can release a book a day forever, then maybe some people will only read your books. I don't think that will happen. She also mentioned that there's a lot of information on writing to market. There is, but I think the same is true for any other strategy. I mentioned I'm in a group that's completely focused on business. Not everybody there is a fast writer. Not everyone there writes to market. And there are strategies for anything you want. You just need to look into it. You need to look into every type of strategy there is. Look at the real pros and cons and then start digging for information. It's there. It's just that writing to market is so incendiary and it gets people into a fit, whether they are pro or against it, that we see it more. That's all. By the way, Tamara Woods hosted a workshop with a few of us authors reading the Right to Market book and then discussing it, the one Chris Fox wrote. And I certainly encourage you to go watch that live stream because you'll see takes from authors who are in very different stages of their writing and how they implemented tips from that book. And you know what? Maybe buy it. It's not that expensive. Buy it and read it and decide for yourself what writing to market is or isn't. There was also a number there that I want to discuss. Jenna mentioned she heard of an author who made $100,000 a year. Given the number of books they wrote, it came up to $5,000 per book, and that it's not too much. First of all, you can't make that average sum because you don't know when the books were published, and you don't know comparatively what the January book did versus the December book, because that one didn't have a year to sell. So beyond that, I will say this: as long as your book makes profit, it doesn't matter. As long as you're not losing money, you're doing something good. Also, is this sum after taxes? Because then it means more. So the number itself is a bit misleading, and my take is, if you want to look at your numbers from a business perspective, as long as you're in the black and making a profit, you're doing great. And that's about it. I think I covered everything I wanted to do. There are some misconceptions, there are some contradictions there, but at least it wasn't decidedly against writing to market and releasing rapidly. Now, I've mentioned I did release rapidly based on these rules. Do I write to market? Not exactly. But it's something I choose to do. I kind of don't. But I do try to release rapidly and be aware of my genre, implement things in my strategy, and overall increase my sales. I will always prioritize series that sell better because I enjoy writing them all. So while at it, why not make some money? Because my goal with this is to have it be sustainable and make a living as an author for years to come. That's it. It doesn't mean I will ever write something I don't like writing. I usually go for things I would love to read. And I have broad tastes, which means I can't stick to a genre, which is not the best strategy out there. So I'm not pro or against it. I'm very pro deciding for yourself, looking at facts and the actual reasons behind each strategy, and then implementing the parts that work for you. That's it. I hope you've enjoyed this. I know it's really long. I think it will take days to edit, but you know what? It's worth it. And again, this is in no way hate. I'm just trying to clarify a lot of things. So let's see how much of this makes it into the final video, because right now I think I have like 75 minutes of recording. Jesus. Anyway, like and share and subscribe if you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you soon. Bye.